Hello and welcome to my channel. Here I review new movies and television shows and try to release a new review every day from Monday to Friday. Today I'm talking about The Old Way. It's a Western action movie written by Carl W. Lucas and directed by Brett Donahue. The story opens with a gunslinger named Colton Briggs, played by Nicolas Cage, getting into a shootout with a posse trying to save their leader from being hung. Colton kills all of them but leaves the leader's young son, James, alive. Many years later, Colton settled down with a woman named Ruth and had a daughter named Brooke, played by Ryan Kira Armstrong. One day, Ruth asks Colton to take Brooke to school, and while they're out, James, played by Noah LaGrosse, and his posse arrive to take revenge on Colton. Colton and Brooke return home to find the aftermath and head out looking for revenge. The story is entertaining but doesn't go too deep into any of its concepts. It spends a lot of time talking. It follows a predictable path, the writing is formulaic, and the dialogue involves a lot of cliches and people stating the obvious. There are only 3 action scenes and they come at the beginning, the middle, and the end. They're short, 2 out of 3 involve Colton being impossibly fast and accurate, and the other one was another lame shootout between stormtroopers. At one point, Colton disappears from atop his horse and then magically appears behind a character waiting to ambush him. I actually had to rewind it to see if he was on the horse, and he definitely was. Colton and Brooke Briggs don't feel emotions. They don't get sad when people die, don't feel scared, and never smile. The film rehashes a lot of stereotypes surrounding psychopaths, but never outright says what Colton and Brooke are suffering from, and makes minor allusions to other disorders such as OCD. It seems like an interesting idea, but it ends up being executed poorly. The film spends a bit of time with Colton teaching Brooke about how to fit into society, but mostly just has him repeating platitudes at her. Cage and Armstrong share the majority of the screen time, with most of the rest going to Noah LaGrosse and his posse. Cage spends most of his time being a grumpy old man, looking annoyed with the people around him, giving curt replies, and spitting out cold one-liners every now and again. He opens up a couple of times and does a decent job of the emotional moments. Armstrong spends most of the movie as the emotionless stoic child. She matches Cage's energy quite well, but doesn't get much to do in the role until the end of the movie. Like Cage, she does well with her emotional moment. The antagonist, James McAllister, and his posse are fairly typical villains. James has a straightforward, revenge-based relationship with Colton. Noah LaGrosse plays him as calm with a soft voice, but just a hint of crazy bubbling under the surface. Like Armstrong, the film doesn't give him much to do. He spends most of his time making idle threats and talking like a madman. His posse isn't much better, with 2 typical henchmen and a cowardly third. The visuals are standard, but aesthetically pleasing. There are lots of scenic landscapes, and the small towns they visit are all done up to look like old pioneer towns. Everybody's wearing clothes from Value Village, but they work well enough for the time period. Lots of button-up shirts and faded jackets. The music is slightly overbearing, but well chosen. They use Hollywood boilerplate tracks to accompany each and every moment of the movie and accurately underscore and amplify the emotions in any given scene. There are moments, though, when I wish they would have let the actors take the reins. For example, there's a moment where Colton and Brooke are talking by a campfire. Both Cage and Armstrong are having a decent moment and really getting into the scene, but the music behind them is just loud enough to conflict with their talking. In the end, The Old Way is another typical revenge movie set in the Wild West. The story is a little silly and kind of basic. It doesn't really use the time period, but it is kind of fun. The characters aren't that memorable, and the film only gives the cast a few challenging moments. The production quality is alright, but the film just doesn't have anything to make it worth your while. 5 out of 10.